What's up, guys? Keyshawn Chia here, back at you with another O10 Universe What If. And this is going to be a new one, and this is going to be 18 plus. No 18X, it's not going to be too that. But this is going to be what if Deku was pain. Now, people was asking me to do this what if, and I've been looking at a couple of videos, and people was doing what if Deku had the Rinnegan, or what if Deku was pain and stuff, and some people was doing that and stuff. But they wasn't doing it in the way that you could say tradition way of doing, they make Deku start from scratch and stuff and all that stuff. But no, I'm going to throw that out the goddamn window. We're going to make this ridiculous. It's going to have plot, but it's going to be ridiculous, outpoint crazy, outpoint saying, did this man really did this with this? This is unhumane. This is not the tradition of what ifs. I'm not going to follow the tradition of what ifs and all that, and making plot 100% as what it is, and making Deku start from scratch and all that stuff, and doing all this stuff and adding scenarios with parts that's supposed to make sense. No, I'm not gonna make sense. We're gonna make it crazy, alright? We're gonna make it unique, out of this world. This will be what if Deku was pain, 18 plus edition. Now, if you don't like this, and you don't like what I'm about to do, out the kitchen, because shit's about to get spicy. But any of that, let's get to going. Well, let's get going, okay? Now, let's get to it. How we're gonna start this? We start off with Deku basically getting born. Now, as you could say about to get born, this is where the Sage 65 comes in. Looking at the new world and realizing that the Shinobi days are over and all that stuff, and he begins to have a fearing that, something bad might happen one day and someone might try to destroy the world. So he chooses a child. And he realized that Deku is being born. Now, as Deku is being born, before Deku can open up his eyes, this is where the Sage of Fifth Path bestowed Deku the Rinnegan, giving him the power of the Rinnegan. And when Deku opens up his eyes, the people looked at Deku and saying, "Oh, look like he already have his quirk awakened." In which Inko looks and says, "My son is already becoming strong," and all that. Which, Deku is smiling. You could say. Now, as Deku's growing older and stuff, this is where, Deku meets Bakugo, and they become friends and stuff, and buddy. Now, Bakugo's, buddy with Deku because, Deku already has his quirk. And you could say Bakugo philosophy is like, whoever has a quirk is, cool and stuff, and worthy to be by him and all that stuff. And whoever doesn't have a quirk deserves to get picked on. And if you have weak quirk, you're going to get picked. Now, this is where, Deku and Bakugo is friends and stuff and all that stuff. And this is where, when Bakugo gets his quirk, he becomes a a-hole, you could say. Now, this is where he's bullying kids and stuff. And this is where Deku defends one of the kids and says, "Kanshan, this is not right. We're supposed to use our quirks for good." And this is where Bakugo starts to talk back, you could say, and say, "Deku, I haven't seen you ever use your quirk once. And when I asked you to use your quirk, you regularly say you don't know how to use your quirk or activate it. And I think you just have weird eyes and you don't have any quirks. So I'm going to do you this favor. I'm going to bully you and him, and make sure y'all both learn your lesson." This is where Bakugo is about to, use his little explosion and trying to hurt Deku. Until Deku, you could say, accidentally do an almighty push and sends Bakugo flying. Now, I know what you're saying. And he needs, like, chakra and stuff, and a large amount of chakra, or that would kill him. No, the Sage of Fifth Path, he gave Naruto, gave him an infinite amount. So he has the infinite loop cycle of chakra. So he doesn't need to worry about ever dying or losing chakra or anything. He just has to wait for the 5 down. Yeah, you could say a 5-second cooldown of his abilities. 5 second. I know what you're saying. 5 second. You mean 5 minutes or 5 that? No, we're gonna give him a 2-minute cooldown of his abilities, so he can keep using them. Yeah, we're going to make him a little bit busted, you could say. Now, as that happened, Bakugo gets flying into the ocean, which the kids are freaking out, saying, "What the hell? What was that?" And the kid right behind him is, which Deku turns around and asks if he's all right, which the kid, which we're going to look. Well, we're gonna pretty much say this kid is Toga. She's a female, which Bakugo is bullying her. And Deku looks at her and asks if she's alright, which Toga says, yeah, she's alright, and she says, thank you. Which Deku begins to smile and says, anytime, well, excuse me, I gotta go help my friend Kashan from him trying to, attack us, which she says, okay, it begins to, you could say, walk away, blushing and making a huge grin, saying that I'm going to marry him and have him one day. You could say a weird, creepy bond is reforming on her. Now, as Deku going to rescue Bakugo, this is where, Deku gets Bakugo out of the water and asks if he's alright, and saying, what did we learn? This is where Bakugo begins to cry, saying that you're stronger than me and I should not bully people, and follow the role of being a hero, which Deku begins to smile and says, that's it, Kashan, and begins to pat him on the head. Now, as they grow older, this is where Deku begins to have full control of his powers, to understand how to use his powers and stuff. Because we're gonna say he begins to train his powers. You could say his diva paths, as using the animal diva path, using the I forgot the other diva paths, the Asura diva path from correct, and like the one to absorb, and the machine one diva path, and also the hell diva path. He knows all of them, and he knows how to use them. Now, this is where Deku and Bakugo begins to talk to each other and all that. And Bakugo's on a tight leash. We're going to say Deku created Bakugo leash. And that leash is, pretty much Deku made Bakugo a complete bitch. You could say a bottom bitch. And he has him on complete control with him, you could say. Now, that leash he has Bakugo wears every day, without delay, to home, to school, and all that. And no one does injectify to tell, Deku to, take off that leash and he's not a pet, because they're all afraid of Deku. But Deku, he's a kind person and stuff, but he has Bakugo on a leash, you could say. Because Bakugo is, you could say, attacking type. If Deku's gone and he's not at school and Bakugo start barking and attacking everybody and bullying him, they're more glad that Deku has him on a leash and watching over him than Deku being gone. Now, as Deku's pretty much sitting by Bakugo, this is where Bakugo is, sitting down, and Deku begins to, ask Kashan, saying, Kashan, so are you going to go to the UA together? Which Bakugo begins to not say anything, and this is where Deku begins to tilt his head and look at Bakugo's face and saying, so Kashan, are you going? Pretty much with the content of those Renegade eyes, putting fear in Bakugo's eyes, saying, yes, I am going. Which Deku smiles and says, great, we're both going to be there. Now, this is where Deku turns around and asks anyone else if anyone else knows, which they're all saying no and stuff, having a little sweat and saying no and all that. Because we're going to say one time, a bunch of delinquents came to their school to fight Bakugo, you could say. And Deku pretty much showed off his ability, pretty much. We're going to say summon the Hell Demon Asura with the demon tongue thing that grabbed the tongues. And pretty much their tongues is getting, teared very long. Which Deku asks what they want and stuff. And when one of them lied, they got their tongue ripped apart. And Deku had to hurry up and put him in the thing and ask him again over and over again, which, now everybody knows what Deku can do and what he's capable of. Now, this is where the teacher comes in. She's pretty much sweating and pretty much looking at Deku, which Deku looks at her with, those eyes. She says, does everybody, I'm here to see if anyone be a hero and stuff, everybody's, quiet and all that. Now, this is where she says, oh, there's only 2 people who wants to go to the UA. And this is where she says Mizuki Midoriya and Bakugo, which everybody's clapping and stuff. Pretty scared and stuff. And this is where Deku is confused and saying, "Why y'all not clapping louder? Why is everybody looking like they're scared?" But they're all clapping and stuff. Giving it more hype and stuff. Now this is where Deku begins to start to go, and head off with Baku. I mean, no, Baku takes his own path. He says he has to go to the store to get something, in which Deku says, make sure to tell me when you're home, because Deku keeps an eye on him every 24/7, like a dog, like a pet owner. Now, this is where Deku taking the shortcut, and this is where the Sludgeman is about to attack him until Deku makes the barrier and sends Sludgeman, slide to the wall, which Sludgeman is confused about and saying, "What the hell did he just do?" Now this is where All Might comes in just in the nick of time, and you could say their swords match. The Sludgeman knocked him out. Now Deku looks and says, "Oh wow, it's All Might," which All Might says, "You're a fan," and pretty much give Deku an autograph. Now this is where All Might, grabbed onto Deku. I mean, not All Might grabs onto Deku. This is where Deku grabs onto All Might and pretty much lands on the rooftop. Now this is where Deku pretty much sees All Might turns into Small Might. And this is where Deku asks, "Who the hell are you?" And All Might pretty much explains the whole situation stuff. And this is where Deku is thinking to himself, and maybe he can heal All Might wound. It says, would you like to try my thing, and maybe I can heal your wound?" Which All Might is saying, "Don't kid yourself, kid. I went to everybody, no one can heal this." Which Deku says, "I don't know, maybe it'll work. Have you ever? Maybe my quirk can try. Maybe my quirk or ability can try." Which this is where All Might says, "All right," and he opens up the hell path, and it opens up his mouth. Now, as All Might goes inside, this is where the demon spits him out, and All Might opens up his reopen up his thing, and the thing is gone. And this is where you could say, turn back to his All Might form, saying, "This feels great. I don't feel like I feel like I can hold on to this much, like wherever I want." Which he looks at Deku and says, "Thank you, kid. How can I repay you?" Which Deku begins to look down and says, "Do you think I could become a hero with this power I have? Like, I know I don't have a quirk, but can I be a hero with this power?" Which All Might says, "Yes, of course you can. You just healed my wound. Why would you ask me that question? Of course you can be a hero. You can be the #1 hero. Hell." And this is where All Might, begins to look at Deku and says, "Maybe he can be my successor." And he looks at Deku and asks him, "Would you like to be my successor?" Which Deku looks at him and says, "What do you mean?" And he says, "Well, would you like to be the next hero? Mizuku, have my quirk, the next one for all. Be the next one for all hero." Which Deku begins to smile and says, "Yeah, of course." Now, this is where they begins to start to head downstairs until they realize that the Sludgeman was gone and Bakugo gets caught. Now, this is where Bakugo's throwing the explosions and screaming for help and stuff. No one's not helping him because they don't have the right quirks to help out. Until Deku looks and says, "Oh no, Kashan, this is all my fault. If I hadn't grabbed to All Might would have put that Sludgeman in." Now this is where Kashan is looking at Deku, reaching out for him and asking for his help. Screaming out and saying, "Mizuku, help!" Now this is where Deku begins to focus and says, "I always use my gravitational, my All Might push to push back, but how about I use my gravitational pull and try to pull Kashan out of it?" Now this is where he focused his might and started pull Bakugo out of the Sludgeman, which Sludgeman is confused and saying, "How the hell did this kid do this?" And Deku pretty much grabs, you could say, Bakugo and says, "Are you alright?" Which Bakugo begins to say, "Yeah, thank you." Now this is where the Sludgeman is about to charge at and try to attack Deku until Deku pretty much, you could say Almighty pushed it away. It sent it flying. Sent it flying away. Now, this is where everybody is saying, wow, amazing. Like, what quirk is that, kid? Like, and this is where, everybody's, graduating Bakugo and all that stuff. And they're about to graduate Deku too until Deku's is gone. You could say he left. Because he didn't want to get recognition. Now, this is where Deku's pretty much walking away, and Bakugo runs up to Deku and pretty much thanks him. For once in his life, he thanks Deku for saving his life, and he begins to walk away. Now, this is where All Might pretty much sees Deku and says, "You did great, and I think you'll be a great successor." Which Deku smiles and says, "Yeah." Now, this is where All Might tells him to meet him at the beach, and they can get that training. Which Deku says, "Okay." Now, this is where they meet at the beach, which Deku already informed his mom that he's going to the beach to train with the number one hero, which Inko says, "Okay." Now, Deku's pretty much training at the beach with All Might, and they're moving the recycling stuff, doing the physical workout stuff, and also lifting up weights and stuff, because Deku can just heal himself. So All Might is pushing the limit, pushing Deku limit, and helping him get stronger, and helping his abilities get stronger, you could say. Now, as Deku is training stuff and also doing all that stuff, he's also seeing Deku use the robot Deku path to create arms and stuff, and to do all that stuff, which All Might is amazed of how many abilities he can do. He can summon birds, he can do all this stuff, and summon dogs, a three-headed dog, which All Might is quite amazed at what he can do, and saying, "Wow, kid, you're really quite amazing," which, Deku is, very happy that he's getting praised by All Might, because, he's a fanboy, and he look up to All Might. Now, as Deku's pretty much done with the beach, and we're going to say this is the last month, you could say. And All Might pretty much, gives out his hair saying, make sure to digest it and wait for it to, digest itself, which Deku says okay, and eats it without questioning whatsoever. Now, this is where, All Might tells him the good luck for the UA High, and hope for him to pass, which Deku says that he hope he passed too, and begins to get going. Now, as Deku's going, this is where he's passing through a alleyway, and he sees a girl, and it's a little girl, and she's pretty much dying. Now, Deku is looking at her, and he's pretty much thinking of what he can do to pretty much save her, and he's thinking about putting her in the deep path, which he realized that it might not be enough time, you could say, because she has an unknown sickness, and he doesn't know if it's going to make it worse or not. So this is where Deku thinks, like, can I share my power and she can have one of the deep paths, and instead of me having it, she can have it, and maybe she should survive. Now, this is where she's looking and saying, please save me. And this is where Deku, you could say, share his ability. And this is where the girl's going to have we're going to say she's going to have the animal demon path. There we go. You could say. The animal demon path. And this is where she begins to get. Now, this is where, as she's, pretty much knocked out, this is where Deku is taking her home and saying that we have a new family member, which Inko says, who? And she sees a little girl, and she's saying, oh my god, Deku, is she dead? Which Deku says, no, she's a part of me, but also she's, you could say, a part of the family. She's more like a little sister. Now, as she's waking up, she's looking around, and she sees herself pretty much on the couch, which Deku says, oh, you're awake. Which she looks and she says, where am I? Now, this is where Deku is explaining to her that, he previously gave one of his powers up for her, and now she has the animal demon path, which he explains the abilities of what she can do, and she can summon animals and stuff. Well, he pretty much didn't give his ability up, but he pretty much gave her the animal demon path. So he can still use the animal demon path, but it would take longer for him to resummon animals. She can just summon animals automatically and stuff, like the panda and stuff. Now, this is where she's pretty much saying, "Oh, okay," and she says, what do I call you?" Which is where Deku says, "You can just call me Big Brother, and you are part of the family." Now, this is where Deku tells her that her eyes is quite different now. She has the same eyes as him, saying like the purple one, which Deku says, "Yeah," and she's gonna be going with him to the UA because you could say she's a part of the abilities now, and she comes with him now. This is where she says, "Okay," but first Deku tells her, to eat up and get some rest and stuff, and to get a shower, and that's what she. As next day, Deku pretty much is getting dressed and stuff, and this is the outfit with this, you could say, with the gloves and stuff, and his hair is black, not green, and he begins to wake up, wake up her, wake up the girl, which she begins to say, "Okay," and she gets dressed too. Now, as they're going, she's pretty much talking to him and asking, like, and thanking him for saving her life, which, Deku says, any problem. And plus, he wanted to experiment and see if he can, like, share his abilities and he can have more like him, which she says, more like what? And this is where Deku smiles and says, like a god, you could say. Now, this is where they're heading in, and this is where Bakugo is sitting down, and he sees Deku and a little girl, which he's saying, a little girl, just like him. Now, this is where Bakugo says, I have a bad feeling about this, and this is where the little girl and Deku sit together by Bakugo. Now, Bakugo is asking Deku, so who's the little girl? Which the Bakugo says, oh, she's like part of my powers. And she begins to say, hi, my name is Red. Which, Deku, which, Bakugo says, oh, hello, Red. So, what, your powers have names now? Which, Deku says, yeah, they all have names. I have more. Well, coming soon. Which, Bakugo says, oh boy. Now, this is where Ren is pretty much looking around and stuff, and she's a little bit nervous, but she's still is calming down. And this is where Deku says, it's alright. I already taught you what you can use with your abilities, and you'll be fine. The pendant will be your defense. Your dogs, you can summon the dogs to help you out, and you can summon the bird to fly around so you won't get caught up. Which she says, okay. Now, this is where, oh, and also the chameleon. So, the chameleon can help you out. Now, this is where Deku and Ren go to do the test and stuff, and it's all the same. But Deku has a high IQ and stuff, and he has super strength, like I said. Now, the robots thing. This is where they're all listening to the thing, and this is where the teachers say, "Oh, you mark it, set, go," and they begin to all going. Now, Deku is pretty much, he's pretty much, evolving his Rinnegan and begins to create meteor things around him that fires. He can fire things. And this is where he's almighty pushing things and, using the robot demon path to fire lasers and stuff. And they see all that stuff. Now, this is where Deku says, I wonder if I can use my Rinnegan and the One For All quirks together. And this is where he begins to merge them together. Now, this is where he's broken now. Completely 100% pure out of this world, downright busted broken. Now, since he can use the One For All quirk and the Rinnegan together, his abilities have no cooldown. So, imagine him using the Almighty Push multiple times without cooldown. Imagine him summoning the Robot Deep Path to shoot lasers. He can shoot them multiple times, or he can just make lasers. He can just make them curve and stuff, and he can just keep firing missiles without delay, and he can just keep healing himself without waiting 5 seconds or anything. So he's pretty much broken now. Now Deku is pretty much firing missiles at all the robots and stuff, and shooting laser beams and stuff. Now this is where Deku begins to, tell Ren to summon her her chameleon, which she begins to say, okay. And she says, yes, brother. And, yes, big brother. And begins to summon the lizards. And the lizards destroying things left and right. Which they can't see it because it's a chameleon lizard. So, they're saying, how is she destroying the robots? And is she a part of his quirk? He can create, like, other beings like him. Now, my mind's confused about this, too. It's saying, can he do that? Now, as this happened, this is where Deku tells Ren that she did a good job. And they're about to head home until they see the Zero Point robot, and they see Baraka getting caught by it, and she's screaming for help. Now, this is where Deku says, well, I wanted to try this out. I wanted to try if this can work. And he pretty much says, alright, and he runs at the robot. Now, this is where he does the meteor drop thing and throw the vortex up. Now, the robot's getting sucked in, and he's getting crushed and turned into a ball. And this is where, it's right in the air. And everybody's looking. And it just starts to blow up. And pieces start to fly everywhere. Instead of to fall down. Now, this is where Deku walks up to Baraka and asks if she's alright. Now, this is where she says, no, I think both of my legs are broken, until Deku picks her up by the waist, and she says, it begins to blush and says, what are you doing? Which, this is where Deku says, oh, I'm gonna heal you. And he pretty much throws her in the demon healing path mouth, and he begins to, eat her while she's saying, and she gets pissed, spit out, and then Deku's saying, you feel better now? Which she's saying, yeah, and she said, wait a minute, hey, you threw me in that mouth, which Deku says, I healed you. And he begins to say, well, I'll be going now. See ya. And he heads home with Ren. Now, as they're home, Ren is pretty much eating sweets and stuff. And pretty much watching TV while, Deku is reading. We're going to say Deku's reading the book. Reading the book and pretty much relax. Now, this is where he looks in the mail and he got accepted. Got accepted in UA and pretty much reached first. Which Deku says, nice. Now, this is part 1 of What If Deku Had the Rinnegan. Part 1. If you like, leave a like, share, comment, and all that stuff. I'm Keisha Chia. Thanks for watching, and peace out. And also, check out for the live broadcast I'm about to do soon. So, yeah, peace out, guys.
Looks like you lost another one.